$15 million. That was the agreement, and they could have worked out and said it was a 12-year for $315 million deal, but only 6 for $157.5. Half of that would have been guaranteed, and the rest on conditions based on time missed, time played, plate appearances, I think time in the field, all sorts of things. They talked about it for 2 weeks, tried to work it out. Mets lawyers were involved. Billy Epler was involved. Steve Cohen was involved, and they still could not bridge the difference. Obviously, they felt that there was risk. The Mets wanted to mitigate that risk, and they couldn't come to an agreement. But the Mets fully guaranteed, would have been 157.5 over the 6 years.
This is cleaner for everybody anyway. That's how I look at it. You know, you did say in your tweet, John, that all was clear with the ankle. And the way I'm looking at this, it's almost like, yeah, they had the player, but we're not making the same mistake that's happened already. We're going to do the physical, then you can announce the numbers. That's almost like what it seemed like to me. Like,
because it's quick, right?
We're not getting out there again without knowing we're comfortable with the ankle. So I'm curious the timing on that, and when did they, get this done?
Yeah, I mean, this was agreed to. My understanding yesterday, I thought he was going for the physical today. I don't know. Maybe I was behind on that. Maybe he's already got the physical done, at least the big part of it, and the ankle is now done. The Twins, you're right, Harold. They're more comfortable with the situation. They had him. They saw him play. They saw that he did not miss any time with the ankle, and frankly has not missed any time, nor has he received any treatment, according to his agent, Scott Boras, over the 8 years since he did suffer the ankle injury and had the subsequent ankle surgery. So, I mean, it's all a projection. 2 doctors have looked at it, obviously, and raised some concerns. So I understand that with the Giants and then with the Mets. And the Mets wanted to mitigate their risk, particularly since not only were they going to be spending $315 million, at least initially, but they're paying a 90% tax. So that's a big outlay for the Mets and a big risk that ultimately they decided they were willing to do it at a certain level, and they couldn't quite bridge the gap and come to a meeting of the minds with Boras and Correa.
You know, early in the winter, I know the Mets had thought about Correa long before it really got all the way out there of playing third base, and I never believed that he would be comfortable or happy at third. He's a Hall of Fame potential shortstop. So when he took the deal with San Francisco, it made sense. Then obviously the ankle injury and all that. I'm saying all this to say I think he landed in Minnesota. The value of that contract is as a shortstop, and I think Carlos is going to be more productive and happier at short than he would have been in an A-Rod scenario playing third in New York. That's my take. What's yours?
Well, there's certainly advantages to being in Minnesota. That's a ballpark he's absolutely thrived in. Not only hit .291 last year, but really had hit well there as a Houston Astro. He is playing shortstop, where he is one of the best shortstops, if not the best shortstop in baseball. And he does like the Twin Cities. I can remember at his press conference how enthused he was. People couldn't believe he was a Twin on a 3-year deal after he had turned down a 10-year deal with Detroit. And he was very excited to be there. I think he did really enjoy it there. But as we saw, it went on there, and we know that he was excited about the opportunity in New York. You know, we saw that Instagram story, as they call it, with his toddler son Kylo wearing that shirt.
That's what the kids do now.
I heart New York. and it was pretty clear that he liked the idea of New York. He had played third base in the WBC, as John Morosi could tell you, and did it spectacularly. He was terrific at third base, and he had no qualms about it. A-Rod was an excellent shortstop, and he was basically just average or a little bit above average at third base. Correa, at least in that limited time that we saw him in the WBC, was fantastic at third base, but he is a shortstop, and normally guys do not like to give up shortstop. And
he's
he could
a
be on a Hall of
platinum
Fame
glove
track.
winner. Come on now, that never sat right with me. That he was just okay. I'll move over to third.
He's not that good. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm looking at the numbers, John. I mean, his deal with the Twins, largest deal in their history, passing Joe Mauer. I get it, but if the Twins went to 6, why wasn't it open to the opened and out there so more teams would be invited in?
Yeah, well, my understanding is there were a few teams that were involved, but obviously this was the best offer, the 6 years, $200 million, and Twins knew the player, loved the player, were willing to take the risk, and obviously this is better than the Mets offer in terms of the full guarantee, and that's why he did that. My understanding is there were one or two other teams, but he liked it in Minnesota, and they loved him, and I think it's probably a happy ending in the Midwest, even if it's not quite as happy in Queens.
Well, Jon Heyman, we're the very latest on this Tuesday. Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins finalizing a 6-year, $200 million deal. This from John as well. This is just kind of to recap. Yeah, he did. Sources telling the Post the Mets are willing to fully guarantee 6 years. That's what he said at $157.5 million. But the final 6 would have only been conditionally guaranteed. So Correa took the sure bet. He'll make $42.5 more in the first 6 with the Twins. Mets and Correa couldn't get past the language.
So let me tell you the headache the Mets avoided.
Tell me.
Lindor gets a hamstring injury. He's out for a little bit. Who's moving to short? Correa. Then you know what happens when Carlos Correa goes off in those 10 days? You got a controversy. Not anymore. He's a Twin now.
There it is.
And that's where we're headed.
Next. That is exactly where we're headed. We're headed to High Heat with Mad Dog and Alana. Have a wonderful day.
The value of Correa is at short. Will he move to third at some point in his career? Maybe. But it's hard to pay $30 or $40 million a year for him to play third.
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
Exactly, Harold. And a couple of things that made this deal work for the Twins. A number of them, actually. Number one, again, they have assurances of understanding him. He's been around their athletic trainers. They know his body better than probably any other organization, with the possible exception of the Astros at this point in time. And also, to your point, he's still a young free agent. He's been around for a long time, but he's still a relatively young free agent. And the years that the Twins are buying for him to play shortstop are the years that you want him to play shortstop. Yes, there are some escalators and things that would allow the deal to go longer, but the reality is this is a time horizon over which the Twins are comfortable. I would also say this, and I say this as a fellow Midwesterner and having watched the Tigers when they were building up and going after free agents, when you are not a major market on the coast, sometimes you have to throw the ball down the field a bit and take some chances if you want to win.
And an organization, they saw that firsthand. Better than the Mets, better than the Giants, better than anybody, but maybe Houston knows what he can do with an organization. That's why this works and the Twins are comfortable. So I think he ended up where he needed to be. The club got him back that wanted him, and it's going to be all right.
So well said. We are reacting to the news that Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins finalizing a 6-year, $200 million deal. Jon Heyman reacting on Twitter, and he will join us next on Hot Stove. Stay with us.
Flashing lights. They really get your attention. See them, and you know to go slow. Now we put that same technology in the palm of your hand with Lizard Flare. It's the high-tech safety flare with no flame.
Attention!